Hello aspirants. Looking at current affairs for 27th Jan, the news items picked up from the Hindu newspaper are these 7. The first one, India should be proactive ASEAN. So this is regarding the ASEAN India Commemorative Summit. So all leaders at this summit from ASEAN, they urged India to play a proactive role in the Asia Pacific region. So Asia Pacific region, we know the concerns which are there because of China's build up in the South China Sea. So there are disputes between various Asian countries with China. So India's role here is expected. They urged India to play a proactive role. Also recently India has formed a grouping of 4 countries. So it's a quadrilateral grouping formed. This is comprising of India, Australia, Japan and US. So these 4 countries have come together to maintain freedom of navigation in the Asia Pacific region. So in that context also here India is being asked to play a proactive role. So at this summit various agreements were signed, various decisions were taken. India announced 1,000 PhD fellowships in IITs for students from Asian countries. Then also a dedicated course in highway engineering has been announced, and setting up of a virtual network of universities has been planned. So pilot projects to even set up digital infrastructure. So in education sector too steps are being taken. Then apart from this, we have already discussed the Delhi Declaration which has been signed in this India ASEAN Commemorative Summit. So other viewpoints also in this are discussed here. So one is RCP, which we have already discussed, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. So this was initiated, the dialogue was initiated for finalizing this agreement in 2012. But so far it has not been concluded. Now India and ASEAN have agreed to swiftly conclude the talks here. This is regarding RCP. So this has to be concluded by 2018. Then another commitment was to enhance physical and digital connectivity. So that is also there. Then the projects Myanmar, Thailand, India, Myanmar, Thailand trilateral highway project, which we have already discussed earlier, More Mysore project, if you remember, with the map. So this has to be completed on an early basis. Then also the Kaladan project, which is there. So all these have been mentioned in the Delhi Declaration after this commemorative summit. Also Asian-India Aviation Cooperation Framework has also been asked to deepen cooperation in this aspect. Also India-ASEAN Free Trade Agreement should be fully utilized and made implemented effectively. So that has also been emphasized on in the Delhi Declaration, because trade is not up to the mark between the two, between ASEAN grouping and India. So this is there. Then agreement on cooperation and conservation, sustainable use of marine resources in Asia and Pacific oceans. These agreements were also signed. Promoting maritime transport cooperation, even encouraging potential private sector participation in development of seaports, maritime logistics, etc. has been emphasized on. Then also promotion of MSMEs, micro, small and medium enterprises. This is also one aspect. Even Asian-India space cooperation has been committed towards. So here regarding even bilateral negotiations with various countries in Asia with India, that is also being talked of. So India, Myanmar, Thailand highway project, as we just discussed, that is with Thailand. Then stepping up air connectivity with Singapore. With Philippines also we already discussed. Philippines is interested in understanding an Aadhaar system too. The next is Trump pushes America first. So this is at the World Economic Forum, which is held every year in Davos, Switzerland. So here US President Donald Trump became the first US President in 18 years to address this annual summit of the rich and powerful as such. So here Donald Trump again emphasized on his America First policy. So he said that invest in India. He was making a pitch for US as an investment destination. Bring your money, your jobs, your businesses to America. And he said that the tax cuts which have been announced recently in USA and curb on regulations, these are a boost to the investment climate. And he was inviting investment in US. So he said that as every nation tries to bring in investment in their country, same way America is also doing the same thing. That is America first. But then he also demanded tougher enforcement of trade rules and also accused unidentified countries of unfair trade practices and stealing intellectual property, providing state aid to their industry. So such unfair practices were also highlighted by him. So he said that trade laws have to be enforced to the fullest. He speaks of fair and reciprocal trade. Means America is in a better position than other countries is not what he agrees. America always comes first. So other nations have to be traded at an equal term. So he wants fair and reciprocal trade. That's what he insists on. Then next is armed forces set to be curtailed in Northeast. So the Home Ministry has announced that they will conduct a security audit in the Northeast and a plan would be finalized to reduce the number of Central Armed Police Force personnel deployed in the Northeast. So insurgency related incidents, it has said, have come down by 85% now. So that is why now there is a need for reducing Central Armed Police Forces and the state police itself can take over the role of security and law and order. So also the government had set up a committee, Justice B.P. Jeevan Reddy Committee. It was a 5-member committee appointed in November 2004 to review AFSPA. So AFSPA is the controversial act here, Armed Forces Special Powers Act. So this committee submitted its report in 2005. It said this AFSPA should be repealed and even Unlawful Activities Prevention Act of 1967 should be modified, amended, clearly specify the powers of the armed forces and central forces. So AFSPA has been controversial because here armed forces then get the power to kill anyone acting in contravention of the law. They can arrest anyone without a warrant. They can search premises without a warrant. So such powers given to the armed forces and central forces in disturbed areas. So these force powers are there to the armed forces in disturbed areas, declared so. So this actually has become controversial. The Supreme Court has also given a ruling which puts significant curbs on AFSPA. But then now even the government as such has repealed. In 2017, the Home Ministry gave up its power to declare that AFSPA would continue in Assam. It asked the Assam government itself to take the decision. So this was also done. So here now again the government is considering a security audit to see whether central and armed police forces should be reduced or not. They want to reduce the armed forces actually. So here you can see how insurgency has reduced over the years in the northeastern states. And this is regarding AFSPA. It was introduced in 1958. So it has been in force in Manipur since 1980. There are atrocities committed under AFSPA. There are allegations of rape, etc. As such to Irom Sharmila from Manipur. She was on a hunger strike since 2000. It was only last year that she gave up her hunger strike and tried to join politics. So the special powers are also mentioned here. They can fire upon or use force against any person. So this is the arrest without warrant, search without warrant. Also AFSPA, it bars prosecution of proceedings except which centers not against personnel for action committed while exercising powers under the act. So this is the blanket protection which was given under AFSPA. But this has now been modified because of Supreme Court ruling. We'll see that too. So these are various sections specifically mentioned which are controversial. And this is the states in which AFSPA is presently in force. So there are disturbed areas declared and it's only there that AFSPA is enforced. So Jammu and Kashmir has AFSPA and the northeastern states you can see which have AFSPA presently are shown here. Some areas in Manipur, Meghalaya, Arunachal Pradesh are excluded. So this is there. Tripura no longer has AFSPA. When Punjab and Chandigarh were under AFSPA, but then it has been repealed from there. So Assam, Nagaland, Manipur, Arunachal are the states where AFSPA is in force. And this is regarding the Supreme Court ruling. So you can see that Supreme Court said that you can't cite AFSPA to claim immunity from all that is done in lawful discharge of official duty. So armed force personnel will also face criminal prosecution in case of an unjustified death. So even in case of encounters, even in case of unjustified deaths, AFSPA, even if it is under AFSPA, they will face criminal prosecution. So the Supreme Court made this clear. So if it also said that if such excessive force leads to death, it must be thoroughly inquired into by an independent body. You can't say that if under AFSPA, if death occurs at the hands of the armed forces, then there will be no inquiry. There will be a thorough inquiry by an independent body. And it will check whether do's and don'ts in the operation were applied or not. Whoever it may be who was killed. Maybe a terrorist, a militant, or a dreaded criminal also. Still, there will be a thorough inquiry by an independent body, and unjustified deaths will result in criminal prosecution of armed forces. So this was a Supreme Court judgment. Then next is government relaxes Atal Pension Plan norms. So the Atal Pension Yojana here. So this is the pension scheme of the government. So in this Atal Pension Yojana, now it has been announced that even small finance banks and payment banks can offer this Yojana. So this is announced by the central government. So there are 11 payment banks and 10 small finance banks which have been given license by RBI. So they can also provide Atal Pension Yojana. So there are more than 84 lakh subscribers under the Yojana presently. So even Atal Pension Yojana is detailed out here, you can see. So there is a monthly pension given. As such, you can join it from 18 years to 40 years of age. The years of contribution are shown here, and how much contribution you have to do on a monthly basis is pointed out here. And then there is an equivalent amount put into it by the government as well, and a monthly pension is given up to rupees 5,000 to the subscriber and his spouse after the age of 60 years. So this is Atal Pension Yojana to bring in a pension society. So that is the objective of this scheme by the government, and in this scheme the government is making a contribution as well. And then this is regarding the payment banks and small finance banks, for which the RBI issued licenses. So here they are also listed what are small banks and what are payment banks. So payment banks, what they can do is they can offer internet banking. They have ATMs also. They can function as business correspondents also for banks. So these are payment banks. They can offer bill payment services, offer internet banking services. And small finance banks are, they sell forex to customers. They sell mutual funds, insurance, pensions. So all these, both of these will also be allowed to sell Atal Pension Yojana. Here they can give small loans. Small finance banks can give small loans, but they cannot give large loans. They cannot have their subsidiaries. They can, here payment banks also, they cannot give loans at all. Payment banks cannot give loans at all. Small finance banks cannot give large loans. They cannot give credit cards also, payment banks. They cannot accept NRI deposits. Then next is bad loans shrink from record peak. So we have seen that bad loans have been haunting the banking sector in India, especially the public sector banks, for long. But now the latest data shows that India's stocks of bad loans has shrank slightly in the quarter up to September 2017. So this is the first time that the bad loans have shrunk. They had reached record levels, as such. It started off since 2015, and the government came up with a new bankruptcy code to insolvency and bankruptcy code, and now the data shows that the ratio has declined. It is 12.2% presently as such, after having increased steadily since 2006. So these bad loans or stressed loans, as it is called, it includes non-performing assets, restructured loans, as well as written off loans. So all have been included in the term stressed assets. So they have eased 0.4% from 3 months earlier. So this is the latest data. RBI also conducted a major asset quality review because there were allegations that banks were hiding the extent of their bad loans. They were not showing in their books. So now they have also been brought out in the open. Government announced a recapitalization package also for state-run banks. So this $33 billion recapitalization for public sector banks has also been announced. The first tranche of it was recently announced as such too. So this is there. So stressed loans in the country, the 21 public sector banks have 8.25 trillion bad loans. Private sector banks have 4.65% of their loans as bad loans. And foreign banks in India have 4.2% of their loans as bad loans. But the maximum ratio is of public sector banks only. That is 16.2% of their total loans are bad loans. So this is there. Here are the details regarding stressed assets. What does it mean? And each of the terms is mentioned. So when you say stressed assets, it means NPAs, restructured assets, and written off assets. NPA means non-performing asset. Non-performing asset, basically the definition is that the interest or the principal amount is not repaid by the borrower during a specific period of time. And that specified period of time in India is 90 days. So in 90 days, if this amount does not come, then that asset is categorized as non-performing asset. Restructured assets are those, means if it has become a non-performing asset, then it restructured, means there is an extended repayment time given, or the interest rate is reduced, a part of the loan is converted into equity, some adjustment is done. So that is called a restructured asset. But still it is stressed. It may not be under NPA because it has been restructured, but still it is part of the stressed asset. And the last category is written off assets. So these are the assets in which the banks have given up. No? So that it is not counted as the money that borrower. So this money actually is adjusted for by the bank from some other source. So it has been written off, but it does not mean that the borrower is pardoned. He will not have to pay. The bank will continue to demand from the borrower, but bank has made another adjustment for it. So those are written off assets. Loans written off in their accounts by the banks. So this is there. Then next is, this is the details regarding the non-performing assets as such too. Over the years, you can see how stressed assets have increased over the years. And the last one is, renewable sector wants budget to pack more energy. So the renewable sector is demanding that to achieve the target of having 175 gigawatts of renewable energy capacity by 2022, more budget allocation is also required. And more steps need to be taken. Incentives should be granted. The solar panels as such, imported solar panels actually have excise duties imposed on them. So the 7.5% duty and also a cess on them is actually making it cumbersome, because the domestic solar panels are not sufficient, and to meet this increasing demand, solar panels have to be imported, and if there are duties imposed on it, then it will result in the costs increasing. So this is also one aspect highlighted. Then second is that solar projects are actually being centralized. So it is said that some experts in the field say that the government is making the same mistake which it did in thermal parks. So thermal projects were established, same way solar parks have been established, and then the power is transmitted to load centers. So this actually should not be done. Solar projects should be decentralized to optimize the transmission costs and losses. So this is there. Then another aspect which is there is regarding depreciation for solar industry. So 80% depreciation was allowed till March 2017, but now it has been reduced to 40%. So this depreciation benefit should be reinstated is another demand. And lastly, the rooftop solar installed capacity is quite low, as we have seen earlier too. Only 1.5 gigawatts has been achieved as against the annual target of 5.7 gigawatts of rooftop solar power. So here also, steps need to be taken to encourage the rooftop solar power. So this is regarding even the budgetary allocation has increased over time, but there is much more that needs to be done to achieve this target, 175 gigawatts of renewable energy by 2020. So these are the news items. Thank you.